The truth that everyone is talking about, new peace agreements between Ukraine and Moscow, will not lead to peace. A large part of our territory is under occupation, and there are Ukrainians who live under occupation, who live in repression, and who are waiting for the armed forces of Ukraine to release them. Many of them are tortured and killed because the Ukrainians, because they want to get rid of the occupation of their land, and because they support native Ukraine. A truce now, first of all, will deprive even hope for these people. It will leave many people under occupation for a long time, and it will condemn some of them to death. Also, the Russians forcibly mobilizing residents from the occupied territories to join their army for the next phase of the war, as it was in occupied Lugansk, Donetsk and Crimea a few years ago. If we look realistically at the situation, after the peace agreements, there will actually be a stop of the supply of weapons to Ukraine. Instead, the Russians will have a powerful build-up. And after the peace agreements, the Russians will not stop killing Ukrainians, like many times before during several centuries. We will have many diversions inside the country and even more killings in the occupied territories. And Ukraine will not be able to fight back in this situation. Also, our partners, for sure, will force us not to respond to the provocative missile attacks by Russia. This is how it will be. And we will simply die ingloriously and quietly. It will be the real result of a truce. Russia has established a trade and money flows in, and Moscovian financing of its army is increasing. And accordingly, the pace and scale of preparation for the next stage of hostilities will be incomparably different in Moscovia and Ukraine. And if a truce happens and stockpiles of weapons in Ukraine don't increase significantly, then, in a few years after the peace agreements, when Russia continues its military offensive, we will again have approximately the same situation regarding hostilities as now, or worse, and a larger number of Ukrainian territories will be occupied. And again, we return to this closed circle, which can only be broken by a much larger supply of weapons to Ukraine, so that we can protect and defend ourselves and prevent the war in other European countries. Exactly artillery shells and aerial bombs in an incredible amount is the key to the success of the rapid advance of Russian troops last month, and this is the main problem for Ukraine at the front right now. Our infantry is simply knocked out by aerial bombs, and only a large supplies of weapons and ammunition to Ukraine will radically change the situation on the battlefield. But it really has to be a large volume. Ukrainians demonstrated perfectly in the Kursk region that we can independently carry out a huge operations and successfully fight the enemy if we have a sufficient number of weapons. Only with enough weapons we can push the enemy out of our territory quickly enough. Ukraine has many problems, also out of war, like any other country. And our society fights with these problems, in the same time fights at the front. No, it won't be fast. The main our problems it's pro-Russian politicians in the government, it's corruption, etc. A large number of different problems. But a Ukrainian society will definitely evolve and solve all of these problems, but we just need some time for this. Yes, we're very tired. Yes, many people think about a little time break, but it will be fatal for country. We have only one chance, only during the war, to improve the army and improve the military-industrial complex and bring it to the qualitatively better level that will give us opportunity to survive. The question is, will the world's leading countries will actually contribute to the liberation of Ukraine and neutralize inadequate Russia? Or will the world Simply wait until Ukraine will die, and then we'll keep the Baltic countries as a buffer zone. Peace is not the absence of hostilities and battles. Peace is the absence of danger. Peace is the absence of occupation. Peace is the elimination of the enemy, and peace is the elimination of the Moscow. Peace is the absence of the Moscow. Nothing but weapons for Ukraine will bring the peace to Ukraine. Thanks to everyone who supports this channel and me, it's very nice. And if you want more videos, you can support it with PayPal, info will be below, and subscribe, of course.